It was the year 1139 when an Irish archbishop named Malachy O'Morgair embarked on a fateful journey to Rome. A man of deep piety and known for his visions, Malachy sought an audience with Pope Innocent II. But as he neared the Eternal City, something strange occurred. A flood of visions overtook him, cryptic phrases and symbolic titles unraveling before his eyes. He saw a long line of future popes, each marked with a mysterious motto, stretching from his own time to the very last leader of the Church. Frightened by the magnitude of what he had received, Malachy hurriedly wrote down these 112 prophetic phrases. Each one corresponded to a future pope, foretelling either his name, coat of arms, or defining characteristics. He presented the manuscript to Pope Innocent II, who reportedly placed it in the Vatican archives, where it remained hidden for centuries. For nearly 450 years, Malachy's prophecy remained buried within the Vatican archives, lost to time. From the mid-12th century to its rediscovery in 1595, the world witnessed great upheavals: the rise and fall of empires, the Crusades, the Black Death, and the Protestant Reformation. During this period, popes came and went, each fulfilling their roles as shepherds of the Church. But did their reigns align with Malachy's visions? Though the prophecy was hidden, history unfolded in ways that seemed to mirror the mottos associated with these pontiffs. Many scholars believe that if the list was indeed written by Malachy, then its accuracy remained intact, even during its time in secrecy. Some examples include Pope Innocent III, 1198–1216. Cum signatus sine Count. Innocent III was born into the powerful Conti family whose members held noble titles including counts. His reign saw the height of papal influence in medieval Europe. Pope Boniface VIII, 1294–1303. Ex undarum benediction from a blessing of the waves. His papacy was deeply involved with naval powers, particularly in disputes between France and maritime republics. Pope Gregory XI, 1370–1378. Novus de Virgin 40, a new one from the Strong Virgin. He was the last pope to reside in Avignon before returning to Rome at the urging of Saint Catherine of Siena, a powerful and devout virgin mystic. As time passed, new popes continued to ascend the throne of Saint Peter, yet the prophecy remained hidden. Many historians speculate that the Church may have suppressed the document to prevent panic or misinterpretation. Others believe it was simply forgotten until its rediscovery. Then in 1595, the prophecy resurfaced when a Benedictine monk, Arnold Wyon, published it in his book Lignum Vitae. The world was stunned. The descriptions of past popes seemed eerily accurate. For example, Pope Celestine II, 1143–1144, was described as ex Castro Tiberis from a castle on the Tiber, and he was indeed born near the Tiber River. The motto for Pope John Paul II, 1978–2005, was De Labor Solis, from the labor of the sun, an enigmatic phrase that many link to his birth during a solar eclipse. Let us delve into the analysis of this prophecy. Historians and theologians have debated the authenticity of Malachy's prophecy for centuries. Skeptics argue that the descriptions of popes up to 1595 were written with the benefit of hindsight and that later interpretations were vague enough to be applied to various pontiffs. However, many believers see the list as an undeniable roadmap leading to the final days of the Church in the world. Some of the more recent popes have had mottos that appear to correspond with their lives and reigns. Below are some notable examples of these popes. Let's dive into that. Pope Benedict XV, 1914–1922. Religio depopulata, religion laid waste. His papacy coincided with World War I, a time of immense destruction and suffering. The war not only led to a loss of life, but also greatly affected religious institutions, leading many to see this motto as a direct reflection of his time in office. Pope Pius XI, 1922–1939. Fides intrepida, intrepid faith. He stood firm against the rising totalitarian regimes of Hitler and Mussolini, condemning the threats they posed to Christian values. His papacy was marked by strong resistance to secular powers that sought to undermine the Church. Pope John XXII, 1958–1963. Pastor et nata, pastor and sailor. This pope had deep connections to Venice, a city famous for its canals and maritime history, reinforcing the sailor aspect of the prophecy. He also initiated the Second Vatican Council, steering the Church into a new era, like a captain guiding a ship. Pope John Paul I, 1978. De Mediatate Luni of the half moon, his brief reign lasted only 33 days, one full moon cycle, before his sudden death. Some believe this phrase signifies his short-lived leadership. Pope John Paul II, 1978 to 2005. De Labor Solis, from the labor of the sun. He was born during a solar eclipse and later traveled extensively, spreading the gospel worldwide, much like the sun reaching all corners of the earth. Pope Benedict XVI, 2005 to 2013. Gloria Olivi, the glory of the olive. The Benedictine order, with which his name is associated, has a connection to the olive branch. Some interpret this as a reference to peace, while others see it as a nod to his conservative theological stance. But the most chilling aspect of Malachy's prophecy was its final entry. The 112th pope was described as Petrus Romanus, Peter the Roman, under whose reign the world would face great tribulations, culminating in the destruction of Rome and the Last Judgment. His prophecy reads as, "In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will reign Peter the Roman, who will feed his flock amid many tribulations. After these things, the seven-hilled city will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge his people." So, in the prophecy of Saint Malachy, one of the most haunting lines foretells that when the final tribulations are complete, the seven-hilled city will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge his people. This mysterious and solemn declaration has long been the subject of speculation, pointing toward an inevitable moment of reckoning. But who is this dreadful judge? And what does the destruction of the seven-hilled city signify? Throughout Christian tradition, the role of the ultimate judge belongs to none other than Jesus Christ. The Bible presents him not only as the merciful Savior, but also as the one who will render final judgment upon all humanity. The Gospel of John states, "For the Father judges no one, but has given all judgment to the Son," John 5 verse 22, affirming that Christ himself will be the one to separate the righteous from the wicked. In the book of Revelation, he appears as the glorious King, seated upon a great white throne, before whom the dead stand as the book of life is opened. His judgment is final, there will be no more second chances. It is this fearsome, absolute authority that makes him the dreadful judge, not in the sense of cruelty, but in the sheer magnitude of his power and righteousness. The prophecy speaks of a moment that will shake the world, the destruction of the seven-hilled city. Since ancient times, Rome has been known as the City of Seven Hills, a title recognized even in biblical times. Many theologians and historians have drawn a connection between this prophecy and the warnings in the book of Revelation, where a great city, often linked to Rome, meets its end. Revelation 17 verse 9 cryptically describes the seven heads as seven mountains on which the woman sits, a passage frequently interpreted as referring to Rome's geographical landscape. But this city is not just any city, it is the heart of the Church, the very seat of the papacy. If this prophecy speaks literally, it could mean a future catastrophic event that leads to the fall of Rome itself. Yet, there is another way to understand this destruction. In the imagery of the Apocalypse, Rome is often equated with Babylon the Great, a symbol of worldly corruption, false power, and decadence. Revelation 18 speaks of its sudden downfall, stating, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. In 1 hour your judgment has come." Some believe that, rather than predicting a physical destruction, the prophecy warns of a spiritual or moral collapse, perhaps a great crisis within the Church, or a time when its leadership is shaken to its core. Could this be a reference to a future schism? Or the Church facing persecution unlike any seen before? Regardless of how Rome falls, whether physically, spiritually, or symbolically, the prophecy points to what comes next, the final judgment. Once the world has faced its great tribulations, Christ will judge all people. This echoes the warning given in Matthew 25 verses 31 to 32, "When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. It is the ultimate moment of truth, where humanity stands before the divine, and each soul is measured according to their faith and deeds. Many have wondered if we are already approaching this fateful time. The world is witnessing increasing turmoil, wars, disasters, moral confusion, and a growing hostility toward faith. Some believe that these are the signs of the final tribulations, aligning with Malachy's vision. If the prophecy holds true, then what remains is the moment when Christ, the dreadful judge, will come to execute justice. What about the present time? What do we understand of the present Pope? Pope Francis, the 266th pontiff, corresponds to the 112th prophecy if one counts from Celestine II. Some scholars and believers argue that Francis may be Peter the Roman, or at least the last pope before the end of the age. While his official name is not Peter, he was born Jorge Mario Bergoglio to Italian immigrant parents, making him a Roman by descent. While he chose the name Francis after Saint Francis of Assisi, there is an interesting connection. Saint Francis' birth name was Giovanni di Pietro di Bernardone. His middle name was Peter. This could symbolically fulfill the Peter part of the prophecy. The prophecy describes Petrus Romanus as the pope who will feed his flock amid many tribulations. Francis' papacy has been marked by global turmoil, pandemics, wars, moral debates, and increasing persecution of Christians worldwide. Could these be the great tribulations mentioned in Malachy's prophecy? Many point to the accelerating crises of modern times as signs that the world is approaching its final reckoning. What does this mean for us? We live in an era marked by global crises, wars, plagues, moral decay, and natural disasters, all reminiscent of biblical warnings. Some believe Malachy's vision aligns with the apocalyptic prophecies of Revelation. Are we truly in the final days? St. Malachy's prophecy serves as a chilling reminder that time is fleeting, and the call to faith is more urgent than ever. Is the world truly nearing its end, or are we simply witnessing another cycle of history? Only time will tell, but one thing remains certain. Prophecy or not, the world is changing and the fate of humanity hangs in the balance.